Long-term partnerships between corporations and startups should be a no-brainer. General contractors must innovate to stay ahead of competitors and impending disruption in order to survive. Access to startups' creativity, agile ways of working, new technology and skills is exactly what is needed. On the other hand, startups need to gain access to general contractors, markets, customers, industry experts, and benefit from corporate funding, resources, and the reputation of working with major players. Good afternoon, I'm Luís Amorim, Head of Open Innovation at Ferrovial Construction, and I'm very happy to be here today, and four of my dearest friends, and this is the last time I'm going to read and make this very formal. We really want to make this a conversation. We know each other very well, and I hope you will enjoy the session. So, starting, well, Tom is the co-founder and CEO of Sieve Robotics. Sieve is helping contractors to build with speed and precision by automating the construction marking process. If you join us in our stand from Ferrovial, you see this little robot. It's all Tom's making. Victor is the co-founder and CEO of Beware. Beware aims to transform risk management by providing AI-driven, non-intrusive solutions that enhances business workflows in complex environments. Seb, at the end, is an investor at Fundamental, the most active, Seb's words, global investor in the construction tech and AEC tech. The team backs early-stage founders across the Americas, Asia Pacific, and Europe, and has at late worked with several category leaders in construction and design technology. And Angelos is the founder and CEO of Sector, an innovation management platform for construction and real estate. Sector helps companies like Ferrovial find the right solutions and achieve implementation of platforms twice as fast. Again, Angelos' words. Challenges about long-term partnerships between startups and general contractors. We will start with the emotional response. And we read a lot of research for these things as we do. So Boston Consulting Group, I think 2 years ago, made a survey amongst contractors and startups, and they said like more than half of contractors and startups, very, very balanced, they were very dissatisfied with their partnerships with contractors. Startups say they're going from pilot to pilot, and to pilot, and contractors say we're struggling to assess the return on investment of your solution that might bring to our operations. So I think I'll start with the startups. So Tom, how do you feel when you go and meet a general contractor? Are you already on the back foot, or?
So today I feel much more fortunate that we are more advanced and we have a lot more customers who've used us, so we have more credibility. But in the earlier stage, it was much harder. I was going to job sites trying to explain our offering, and they just did not get it, even though it's pretty damn simple. But they ask for a pilot, we do a pilot. I think the biggest problem is having set expectation and actually making sure they understand what that means. They can say yes, but then the field does not really get it. It's not the same people that you talk to sometimes, and that's really frustrating as a startup.
Victor, anything to add? I know you've got a lot to add, but...
Yeah, I'll try to be brief there. I've been recently reading a book called Conscious Capitalism by John McKay and Mahendra Sisodia. And one of the things they say is companies should not only focus on making money, but they should try to become agents of a rich ecosystem and protect customers, providers, etc. And one of the things they say, of course, is that you need to love your customers. So at Be Aware, we love corporates because that's our main target. So you know that love is a little bit blind. So dissatisfaction is not the word I would use to describe my feeling, but I think we have a lot of challenges. We are in a very mature industry, low margins, non-tech savvy, and that means that become obstacles in the path of collaborating. So rather than dissatisfaction, I would say we have a big challenge to solve together.
Okay, good luck with customer value. Seb,
Yes.
you're an investor, you work with a lot of, or you see a lot of startups. Would you say the conversation we have with our founders, this is what they say?
Well, emotional response, I definitely empathize with founders a lot. I think there's a lot of pressure to like break things and to build things really fast. So you've got to, it's basically a necessity to have like a high momentum because you've got to, you know, basically your reputation is in jeopardy. You have to keep competitive threats kind of aside. In order to attract capital and funding, you need to be fast. So there's this need for speed. So I can understand that the challenge arises when that need for speed is kind of slowed down by the fact that you're working with very complex organizations. But I think things are getting better. That's the wider thesis here. Okay.
And do you think this is, I think you've worked in other sectors, do you think this is a challenge just for construction tech or?
Well, so, you know, in other sectors, more digitalized sectors, you have, you know, decades of experience of enterprises and startups working together. So there is a playbook, you know, there's a blueprint that is already in motion. Whilst we are like developing that blueprint for the first time in the last few years, but we're seeing more and more strategies coming into play. We're seeing startup teams that are choosing their design partners really early on before going mass market. We're seeing them becoming better at picking the evangelists within an organization. So I'll give you an example. I think last week I was talking to a startup team, and they said they're selling to GCs, and they said, you know what, the sales cycles go from a few days to a few months, and the biggest sort of indicator to how long it goes is the whether they're able to speak to like BIM managers, you know, specifically, or people that used to work as BIM manager. Then it's an overnight decision. So we work with founders to be like, okay, how do you identify the design partners? How do you find the evangelist within an organization? And also, more and more successful startups are coming out, so you're pooling the insights, and it's really trending where we wanted to see it, for sure.
Okay, that's a good segue for the rational response. So everyone talks about customer fragmentation and multiple customer personas, what you mentioned. There's a lot of customers inside each company. Sometimes you don't know the sole decision maker. Sometimes there is no sole decision maker. Of course, you mentioned low margins and economic headwinds. Low margins don't really give you money to innovate, and you always think of return on investment. Of course, the customer value gets a bit. Actually, sometimes our customers, their value is the cheapest cost. Construction is still coming to understand what open innovation means and build good strategies. And then, of course, there's the culture. And Peter Drucker says culture eats strategy for breakfast, and I truly believe that. And I think we feel we need to innovate. I'm the general contractor here, but I'm being very neutral. But we don't know how. So this is all beating up the contractors. Victor, what can startups do to help us?
So let me talk a little bit about startups and about general contractors also, if you don't mind. I think that startups need to understand that they bring two very valuable aspects to corporates. The first one is they are the ones with a true obsession to solve a problem very well that may be very relevant for the business. The second one is they bring agility and are able to test solutions and pivot and test them second solutions, third solutions very fast in a matter of weeks or in a matter of a few months, which corporates cannot do. So this is the value they bring. They need to understand that and they need to exploit it. But from a corporate point of view, I think corporates need to really decide if they truly believe in startups as strategic partners. And with that, I mean that they really need to to start pushing for this collaboration, and if they believe in nurturing this type of collaborations, they need to start sometimes treating startups less as a provider, as a not normal provider with normal, typical rules for providers, and more as a strategic partner. So as part of your own organization almost, because when you do that, you start, protecting the ecosystem that helps you innovate faster. Just very fast, I have participated in very good corporate programs. Let me share with you what I think the most valuable aspects of those programs were. So first, you need to have the C team directly involved. That's super relevant. That means that the CEO needs to go there to open the program, that it needs to go there, listen to the pitches of the startups, maybe pitch to the startups, etc. Not because of the startups need that, but because that generates a message inside the corporate. And that means that the other business units say, okay, why our CEO is there? And that sparks interest. Second, business units. You need to involve business units before making a decision on which are the most impactful strategies, startups, because they need to be there. I mean, your ecosystem is too complex. You cannot expect, it's very naive to expect that a startup will get there with the perfect solution that will match your needs, and that's it. You need to involve business units so that they start a conversation and they land these ideas into tangible use cases. Third, clear agreement. And that's it. Clear agreement on budget. Budget needs to be clear. Who owns the budget for the first pilot? Who owns the budget for the rest of the thing? Yeah. Having a budget for innovation helps to kick off the whole thing. But you need to do that, and you need to understand that what startups need is contracts. So this needs to translate into contracts in a pipeline.
Okay. Come to you, Angela's next. Tom, 30 seconds. What do you feel about incubators, accelerators, hackathons, all these initiatives around open innovation?
Some is a lot of crap, wasting a lot of time, especially if a founder already done one or two of those. I would say the most valuable thing in the accelerator that I took is connecting to the business units and actually bringing people from the corporate who really want to bring innovation and get involved. The rest, we as founders get that in the beginning from investors and from other accelerators, but technical accelerators from corporates, I would say is the people who come from the corporate, that's the one that you need to talk to.
So that's our advice to us. Don't do any incubators, accelerators.
No, bring the right people from the corporate to the program so they will bring it to the field. Okay. That's what I feel.
Angelos, you tell us day in, day out that your startup wants to address some of these challenges, no? The miscommunication between startups and general contractors. Are you our perfect wedding maker, or?
So, I think really, the way to answer this is what's the holy grail, right? Who's sitting? What does the pyramid look like, and who's sitting on the top of the pyramid? And at the top of the pyramid is the owner, right? That's on the top of the pyramid of every project is the owner, and if we don't address the goals and the values of the owner, then the further down the pyramid we go, the more fragmented the goals become, the harder it gets to innovate, to scale technologies. Now, you asked about our position, we address this challenge by being a part of the owner's team. So what we are doing in our role is to communicate these messages of the owner, both to our contractor customers, as well as our vendor, startup, technology partners. What we see is a lot of construction tech companies solving too many problems, so lack of a focus, too low down the value chain. And when that happens, it's becoming really difficult even to go from one project to another. And to go back to your previous question, if it's painful for the startup, it's painful for your customer as well, right? That you have to keep on wasting their time pitching project to project to project. So I think what it ultimately comes up to is, what is our ultimate goal? What is our ultimate value? And to find the answer there, we have to see who's on the top of the pyramid. It's the owner. What is the value of the owner? If you solve for that, even if your target customers are contractors, then you're solving for the needs of their customers, so they like you. So.
Well, thank you. So now let's go to the irrational response. All these challenges, all these things that we can't do, industry productivity going down, and all these floods, amounts of cash coming in. What's going on, Seb?
You want the irrational answer?
No, I think we want to understand why so much money is coming to construction tech.
Yeah.
If there are all these challenges and it's horror stories every day.
Well, of course, I'm going to give you a very optimistic answer. So, we did an analysis, actually. We're looking at the different sectors, So you have fintech, you have construction tech, B2C, whatever. And we saw this trend that when a sector hits 5 billion in venture funding, it takes them 5 years to get to 50 billion. And back in 2018, when we started Fundamental, construction tech was at 5 billion, and we've seen exactly the same trajectory. And another interesting point is that post 2021 is probably every one of you know there's been like a tech crunch, so funding kind of going away, so to speak. And we did again comparison of the different sectors, and we saw that construction tech just kind of resisted a lot better than most of the sectors. So the reason why, it's super simple. The pain points that are being addressed in construction, they're incredibly deep, and no matter the capital markets crisis, it doesn't matter, they need to be addressed. So inevitably you need to build more, you need to build cleaner, and you need to address the huge labor scarcity that we have in developed markets. These are like big crises and they're not going away. So technology plays a pretty big role there. I think you guys can attest to that. It kind of creates a culture of inevitability. And what we're seeing in the investor, really to be practical here, is that, of course, the construction tech startups are adapting to the models that venture capital love, that startup, lean startup glaze. But we're also seeing the investors adapting to construction tech. So, we know that software as a service is not like the most popular thing in GCs, but we're starting to see, for example, these new tech models emerging, one that we coined internally called outcome as a service, so really kind of delivering that fully fledged service that is tech-enabled. By the way, we're discussing it earlier as well. We're seeing investors, because they're proving product market fit, we're seeing investors really kind of rallying around them. So we know that the hurdles are tough initially, but if you get out of those hurdles and if you go through that process of trial and error, you have hugely defensible companies in very big markets. So yeah, we definitely see some value creation there as well.
But are we looking at similar things like fintech, where who's going to see IPOs, or really the ultimate goal is someone acquires the startup? Do you see a...
Oh, a mix, 100%, but IPO outcome is absolutely a possibility. And the interesting thing again about construction is we're really going down to the basics of what is value creation. So in a lot of digitized industries, you have the startup models become customers to themselves almost. In construction, the companies are tough to sell into because the market is unapologetic if you're not responding to the market needs in a very, very strong way. But once we create that sort of engine, it's happening.
So you three guys here you've got the money, you guys need the money. Well, Tom, you need less money already. Is what Seb's saying actually true? When they talk with you guys to raise money, what are they looking for? And is it a partnership with general contractors relevant to them or not?
I think it's definitely relevant. One of the main KPIs they are always looking for is traction, so that's always the case. I would say that investors for us are essential. We have a dream and they make it possible. So following with this idea of conscious capitalism, we need to learn to love each other a little bit better. But it is true that specifically, I would say that more than 95% of investors do not know anything about the construction sector. And you have to be careful, because if they use the same metrics that they use in other sectors, that may be a problem. Just take Procore as an example of a unicorn that we have in our sector. Procore was founded in 2002. In 2012, 10 years later, the revenue was around 4 million euros, so, which is nothing in the construction sector. That means that it takes time and patience to build a business in the sector. After that, in the next decade, they just scale up, and now they are worth it more than $1 billion. But that you need an investor that is able to understand this reality and makes a long-term bet on you because they understand the market.
1 minute each. Angelus.
Oh. So I think what I didn't hear Seb say and what I hear a lot of VCs say is, we look for a 10x return in 10 years or less. But I have to say that I do see VCs also adapting to construction tech, just because it is such a huge market. Construction is not construction tech yet. It is such a huge market, and you can see the returns there. I think there's two important aspects to it. It's the quality of your relationships, because there's a 15% of the construction industry, which is about $1.5 trillion a year, that is controlled by a small number of players, around 300 construction companies. But then there's another 85% of the market, that's $8.5 trillion, that is extremely fragmented, but hundreds of thousands of contractors and owner-developers. So investors are demanding traction, like Victor said, but yes, they are demanding traction in both, right? Quality partnerships and also the ability to scale. And I think both are equally important if we want to achieve innovation, right? Which is our goal here.
Yeah.
And Tom, maybe for you, is having an industrial partner or strategic investor partner like a CVC important?
Yeah. So in the last round, we raised capital also from Trimble, which is a leading surveying equipment manufacturer and software in the construction space. And that's invaluable for us, because that's like saying Apple for computers in our industry. So the fact that we have and being trusted by Trimble makes our sale process much more efficient, trustworthy. And also the collaboration now with Trimble has accelerated because there are shareholders. We tried to work with them before, it was really slow. Now it's not as slow, but it is improving. It's really great to see how it's bearing fruit already for us. And I would say that I do believe in a lot of like the lean startup and keeping it focused, and the opportunities will come. In the end of the day, we're building a relationship with these large companies with large problems, and maybe today we're solving X for them, tomorrow will be 4X, because they trust us. We build these relationships, and it takes time to nurture these things.
Seb, just to follow on that, what do you think about CVCs and their role in the life of a construction tech startup?
What do I think of CVCs? Love them. Listen, I mean, there's pros and cons, right? So when we're looking at construction tech and we have this discussion about design partners, then it could make a lot of sense, right? It depends on the model. There's kind of this historical with CVC where we want to make sure that despite there being a CVC, the founder has her or his full autonomy, her independence. So that's kind of really important. But as long as that's kind of well agreed upon, 100%.
Cool. We're almost out of time. Does anyone want to ask a question?
Any questions?
If not, I've got a few more.
No questions? Yes, we have a question. We have a bit more. We can. One. Sorry, do we need a mic over here? Do you want to stand up and just ask a question? No? Oh no, sorry, I thought you raised your hand. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Anybody else questions? It's hard to see. Ah, here, we have one here.
So how much you think that 3D models and BIM systems are going to be important in terms of data and analyzing the construction processes for basically the startups to be able to emerge in the construction tech?
I think Seb, you've been looking at lots of these things, and
Yeah, I mean,
Fundamental.
it's one of the main models that we look at. So it's about, in terms of if you look at the wider market dynamics, it's becoming hugely important, and the adoption, the market-wide adoption, within a long-run spectrum is inevitable. The question is, how do you find that perfect wedge into the market? So when you look into the workflows, be architectural workflows, contractor workflows, you got to find the perfect wedge to kind of create that sort of repeatable moat into your product. So that's the challenge. But as a trend, we're seeing it over. You take a step back, you look over 5 to 10 years, you're really seeing the adoption.
Another question here. Behind. Oh, sorry. Yeah, and behind.
Hello, morning. This is a question for all the startups right now. There is a lot of people that is talking right now of artificial intelligence, and specifically about ChatGPT, generative AI. How do you think to implement, or are you thinking implementing, this technology in your startups?
You guys. Not relevant for me, to be honest.
We have already integrated generative artificial intelligence in our product, so you need to understand what are the real opportunities there, because everybody's talking about it. It looks like you can do anything. It's not true, but it may add a lot of value. So whenever you have, so I think there are two important aspects there. First, if you need to understand textual information, and construction sector has a lot of textual information, and you need to extract and classify things, generative AI may help you a lot. Large language models. Massive language models. And the second one is you have non-tech savvy people using your application. So the more natural you make your interface with them, the better. And if you can explain things in natural language, that's to me a change maker. So these are the two aspects where I see that we should exploit it.
I'm afraid we don't have any more time for questions, but everyone will be here. Just final thoughts for me. I don't think GCs will be as they are in 10 years. I think we'll be very different animals. Not sure if we will be there. But as everyone does, I ask, Bing GPT, and he says it's the very is mine, I work for a general contractor, unlikely general contractors will disappear anytime soon. So thank you for attention. My guests, South Summit, for inviting us, and we hope to see you all soon. So thank you very much. And if you want to have a chat with us, we just here.